she's so fine. Hell of a ride, blows my mind. Hell of a ride, lights my day.
What's good, guys? I wanted to do a refresher regarding the Kendrick Johnson case and the facts of that case. And I found this article from the local Valdosta newspaper. As most of you know, the case has been reopened. It should have never been closed. But I wanted to kind of brush us up on the facts of the case. The body of Kendrick Johnson was found upside down in a vertically stored gym mat at Lowndes High School in January of 2013. A state autopsy ruled Johnson's death accidental, and a federal review of the case ended in 2016 when the Department of Justice announced it had not found sufficient evidence to support federal criminal charges. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation determined Johnson died from positional asphyxia after he became stuck, squeezing himself into a rolled-up gym mat while reaching down into the mat to retrieve a shoe. Despite the findings, Johnson's parents have insisted their son was the victim of foul play and accused dozens of local state officials of participating in a wide-ranging conspiracy to cover it up. The $100 million civil suit. The conspiracy was laid out in a $100 million wrongful death suit filed by Johnson's parents in 2015. At the heart of their allegations is the belief that Kendrick was killed by Brian and Brandon Bell, LHS students and the sons of former FBI agent Rick Bell. The suit also claimed that Bell's father staged Kendrick's body at Lowndes High School with the direct help of the school's superintendent and the Lowndes County Sheriff, with further assistance from dozens of state and local officials. But during sworn deposition testimony, Kenneth Johnson, Kendrick's father, admitted he had no evidence to support any of the claims made in the lawsuit. The Johnsons eventually withdrew the suit, and a judge ruled that they would be held responsible for the lawyers' fees of those they accused without evidence. They have since filed another suit, which makes the same claims. On August the 8th, a judge ordered the Johnsons to pay nearly $300,000 in lawyer fees. On August the 6th, 2 days before the Johnsons were ordered to pay attorney's fees, Shaveen King, the Johnsons' lawyer, filed an affidavit in opposition to the pending fees, ruling that contained a statement from a 27-year-old Valdosta man, Ryan Anthony Domecq Hernandez. In this statement, Domecq Hernandez claims he was at Brandon Bell's Jacksonville, Florida apartment in April of 2016, and that Brandon admitted to the following. Brian Bell killed Kendrick Johnson. Brandon Bell, Brian Bell, and Ryan Hall argued with Kendrick Johnson in the school's gym. Brian Bell struck Kendrick Johnson with a dumbbell during a, quote, roid rage, end quote. Brian Bell threatened Ryan Hall to, quote, keep quiet, end quote. Former FBI agent Rick Bell contacted former Lowndes County Sheriff Chris Prine about the fight. Prine met with the county coroner. An unnamed FBI agent altered Lowndes High School surveillance footage. Kendrick Johnson's organs were removed to obscure time of death. Kendrick Johnson's autopsy records were falsified. The claims line up with previous allegations made by the Johnsons in their civil suits, but most of the claims have already been discredited by hard evidence. The evidence. A Bell family spokesperson has confirmed to Valdosta Today that Brandon Bell was enrolled in classes at Valdosta State University and was living in a Valdosta apartment off campus during April of 2016. In June, a previously unreleased FBI report confirmed Brian Bell, Brandon Bell, and presumably Ryan Hall were not near Kendrick Johnson when he was last seen on surveillance footage entering the school's old gym. Brandon Bell was off campus traveling to a wrestling match in Macon, Georgia, when Johnson was last seen on surveillance video. Video footage shows Kendrick Johnson walk to the gym alone and did not appear to meet with anyone when he arrived.
In this video, released for the first time by the Valdosta Daily Times, we are able to follow 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson on his final walk through the halls of Lowndes High School. Kendrick's path takes him through C wing of the building, following his third block class, which was dismissed at 1:25. We see the smiling 17-year-old make the turn and continue past the guidance and administration offices. Unlike earlier video, this video contains a timestamp from the surveillance system servers, and we can witness Kendrick enter the hallway to the gymnasium at 1:27. This time is likely accurate as it coincides with the number of students in the hallways as they would be changing classes at 1:25. Kendrick continues unimpeded down the hallway, passing other students and entering the gym at around 1:28. Note the timestamp from the still image displays a time of 12:59. Different time syncs between surveillance servers means the hallway camera was behind by 29 minutes. Cameras mounted inside the gym, which captured images of Kendrick after he passed through the doors, are on a third server, whose timestamp is 10 minutes ahead of the cameras in the hallway leading to the gym. Kendrick and another student disappear from the image after this frame, as they are both now outside the limits of the motion detection system that activates the camera. The next frame shows several students passing by. A student wearing a bright green shirt is joined by a student wearing a blue shirt. These same students can be seen on the hall camera passing through the entrance of the gymnasium approximately 3 minutes after Kendrick. Accounting for the 1 frame per second capture rate of the cameras means that 3 minutes of surveillance footage translates into 18 seconds of real time. This suggests that the time between the last frame of Kendrick and the next frame on the surveillance video is approximately the same 18 seconds. For the Valdosta Daily Times Online.
Now, this is actually from the Valdosta Times. Everything that I'm taking is from the Valdosta Daily Times. But this is actually the article about this lawsuit. Lawyers representing nearly 40 defendants named in the Johnson's lawsuit crowded the courtroom along with Johnson family attorney Shaveen King and 2 attorneys for the federal government. Several defendants were present in the courtroom. Jackie Johnson was also present. At one point, Kenneth Johnson was asked about evidence he had to support the claim his son was killed by Brian and Brandon Bell, the sons of FBI agent Rick Bell. Kenneth Johnson: I believe they have. Brian and Brendan had a lot to do with my son's death, end quote. Question: what did they have to do with it? Kenneth Johnson, quote, I believe they had a lot to do with my son's death, end quote. Question: well, tell me. Kenneth Johnson: the evidence that I have at this time, I do not have any at this time. Quote: the case is made up, Tanner said. This case is built on rumor and social media. This case is not built on truth. Tanner said Johnson's parents responded with, I don't know, and I do not recall, more than 1,000 times during depositions, and were unable to identify several defendants named in their suit or provide specific reasons for why they are included. Tanner also said sworn testimony from Johnson's family revealed the origin of a now infamous post-mortem photo of Kendrick, which is often on posters held by family members outside of the Lowndes County Judicial Complex. Tanner said family members admitted during depositions the photo was taken after Johnson's body was brought to a funeral home following a state autopsy. The photo does not represent how his body or face looked when first discovered at LHS. Quote: the Bells have waited 2 years to clear their names of murder, allegations all based on rumor, Latson said. They have suffered death threats, lost a valuable football scholarship, and were forced to move out of state. They deserve a chance to clear their names, end quote. In his arguments to the court, the Johnson's lawyer, Shaveen King, supported the Department of Justice's attempt to stay the discovery process. He said his client's lawsuit was an indictment of every local and state law enforcement agency involved in the Kendrick Johnson's case. Quote, "My clients are only asking for the truth of what happened to their child," King said. "If there has been a cover-up, if they sat there and watched things happen that were designed to keep certain individuals from taking responsibility, that is a breach of law and order." End quote. Analysis of the video footage also explains what appears to be edits or missing footage in the surveillance recordings. The GBI has maintained Johnson's organs were returned with his body to the Harrington Funeral Home after the autopsy was completed. In contradiction, a CNN report has claimed that, during the second autopsy, it was discovered Kendrick's organs were not present and that his body had been stuffed with newspapers. The Harrington Funeral Home disputed the CNN report, and Harrington's attorney, Roy Copeland, released a letter to the Times stating the funeral home had no involvement in, quote, "the disposition of this young man's internal organs," end quote. Sherry Lang of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, which conducted the original autopsy, said Kendrick's organs were put in plastic bags and placed inside the body cavity following the autopsy by GBI pathologist Dr. Gaffney Kraft. Anderson's report stated the organs removed at the initial autopsy were not present with the body, but he did not indicate he opened the body cavity for inspection, nor did he provide details of how the body was embalmed. Repeated requests to the family's lawyers to allow the Times access to the photos reportedly showing, quote, "sales flyers and newspapers," end quote, in Kendrick's body cavity, as reported by CNN, have gone unanswered. The lawyers have also not replied to the paper's request to conduct an interview with pathologist Anderson. Harrington Funeral Home was also cleared of any wrongdoing when handling Johnson's body. The funeral home that prepared Kendrick Johnson's body for public viewing and burial by reportedly stuffing his body cavity with newspapers and other filler material to replace internal organs removed during an autopsy did not break state law, the Georgia Board of Funeral Service has concluded. But the board also said in a letter to the Johnson family, the Harrington Funeral Home's decision to replace the autopsied organs with newspapers is not considered, quote, "best practice," end quote, for embalming. The board, in a report released Thursday, said filling a body cavity, quote, "is a necessary preparation to present a deceased body for public viewing," end quote, adding, however, that there are other materials, quote, "more acceptable than newspaper," end quote, for that purpose. The state agency investigated the funeral home's handling of Johnson's body after the family complained to the state about discovering the newspapers when the body was exhumed for a second autopsy. The papers replaced the deceased's heart, lungs, and other internal organs. Roy Copeland, an attorney for Harrington, said the funeral home was, quote, "certainly happy," end quote, with the funeral board's finding that it did nothing illegal in embalming Johnson's body. Quote, "the reputation of Mr. Harrington in the community and the reputation of the funeral home is outstanding," end quote, said Copeland. Antonio Harrington, the funeral home's director, said he was baffled by concern over the handling of Johnson's body. He said 90% of funeral homes use shredded newspaper in embalming procedures. Quote, "newspaper is a practice that has been used for years," said Harrington. "Shredded paper, cotton, and sawdust are used to restore normalcy to the body for public viewing. Very few use sawdust. The majority use paper," end quote. Quote, "personally, I have no ill will towards the family. I pray for them," added Harrington. "We've done nothing wrong. It was a hurtful thing. It hurt my family, and we are glad our name has been cleared," end quote. A bogus arrest. On August the 18th, Domecq Hernandez was arrested by Valdosta Police Department and charged with criminal trespassing. That's a picture of Ron Domecq Hernandez. Shortly after, Jackie Johnson, Kendrick's mother, took to Facebook to claim Domecq Hernandez was being jailed on, quote, "bogus charges" in an effort to suppress his statements. Incident reports obtained by Valdosta Today tell a different story. At approximately 5:30 a.m. on August the 18th, VPD officers were dispatched to a residence near Eager Road in reference to a reported trespassing. A woman reportedly told police she was in her bathroom when Domecq Hernandez came to the bathroom window and punched through the glass in an attempt to enter the home, reports stated. At approximately 6:05 a.m., a VPD officer at South Georgia Medical Center reportedly witnessed Domek Hernandez walk through the emergency room entrance without a shirt and with blood on his right hand and a belt wrapped around his right forearm. Domek Hernandez reportedly tried to register at the front desk as, quote, John Doe, end quote, but the officer recognized him from previous encounters and was aware of a recent, quote, be on the lookout, end quote, call issued because of the trespassing incident. As the officer began walking toward him, Domek Hernandez walked out of the lobby. The officer, noting the arm injury, reportedly tried to grab him by his shorts. After a struggle, the officer withdrew a conducted energy weapon, but did not use it, reports stated. The officer guided Domek Hernandez to a nearby bench and applied pressure to his arm in an attempt to stop the bleeding, but he refused aid and reportedly said he wanted to, quote, just bleed out, end quote, and loosened the belt on his arm. Domek Hernandez was eventually treated inside the hospital and later charged with trespassing. He was then taken to the Lowndes County Jail and later released on bond. Domek Hernandez has had several other run-ins with the law. July the 13th, 2017, arrest for criminal trespass. September the 1st, 2016, arrest for possession of marijuana, possession of meth, and weaving. January 20th, 2013, arrest for burglary. The case of Kendrick Johnson is being reopened. According to a report released Monday by WALB News 10, the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office has reopened the Johnson case. His death was initially ruled an accident. Johnson's lifeless body was discovered at the old Lowndes High School gymnasium in Georgia on January the 11th, 2013. He was just 17 years old. Sheriff Ashley Polk told WALB News 10 the officers received 17 boxes of documents, along with computer towers and hard drives of data and information that had been collected during previous investigations. They are now comparing the old information to new information learned about the case. Polk said information about the case will not be disclosed until it is closed again. A petition on change.org that has been posting updates about the case shared the following on Tuesday. Quote, hello, everyone. I'm glad to share great news with you all, since we all did this together and stuck by each other's side despite the trolls. Sheriff Polk from Lowndes County has reopened the Kendrick Johnson case. I will be making a quick video either today or tomorrow on my YouTube channel about this magnificent victory. Although it has been reopened, let's pray that the Johnson family, nor us, are let down again because there is still a lot of work to be done. And I, Miss J, demands that all of these monsters is required to do a lie detector test, not only for the killers, but also everyone who knew, which includes teachers, students, and family members. Count y'all's days. There are orange suits in the jail that are eager to be worn. Thank you, end quote. As reported by the Griot, the protest and nationwide civil unrest over the death of George Floyd in 2020 sparked a petition calling for the investigation into the death of Johnson to be reopened. The body of the high school sophomore was discovered rolled in a gym mat. State and local officials ruled Johnson suffocated after reaching for a pair of sneakers inside a mat and getting stuck. But his parents never accepted that his death was an accident. In 2018, they asked for and received permission to exhume their son's body to have a third autopsy conducted. Quote, Lord, to have to disturb his resting peace breaks my heart into so many pieces, but it has to be done, Jacqueline Johnson posted of her son on Facebook at the time. The worst part is to have to bury him a third time, like another whole funeral, and he's leaving us again, end quote. The Change.org petition is currently calling on the public to help with the, quote, Justice for Kendrick Johnson, end quote, campaign. The petition, created by Jay Holden, notes how Johnson's popularity as a high school athlete made him a favorite with the ladies. It also noted that the male students were said to have been jealous of him. One such student was Brian Bell, who allegedly confessed to killing Johnson. Quote, Brian Bell has also stated that he killed Kendrick Johnson multiple times over the phone. Brandon Bell, who is both a student at Valdosta High School and the brother of Brian Bell, had got drunk at a party on July 4th of 2013 and told people that Brian Bell killed Kendrick Johnson, end quote, the petition alleged. The petition goes on to address Ryan Anthony Domecq Hernandez, who said Bell told him that he, quote, killed Kendrick Johnson by striking his neck with a 45-pound weight dumbbell after they began arguing over Talon Eakin, a girl Bell allegedly liked. Eakin allegedly liked Johnson. Quote, according to Brian Bell had told Ryan that if he did not keep quiet and help him move Kendrick Johnson's body, his father, who is Rick Bell, who is a retired FBI agent, would make sure that he would pay for it, end quote, the petition stated. Second autopsy. Among other items, federal investigators will compare the official state autopsy with a second one performed 5 months after Johnson's death by a private pathologist hired by the youth's family. Johnson's body was exhumed June the 14th, and Dr. William R. Anderson, a forensic pathologist with forensic dimensions in Heathrow, Florida, conducted his autopsy the next day. His findings contradicted the state autopsy conducted 4 days after Johnson's death. Anderson's report, dated September the 15th, stated the body showed evidence of blunt force trauma to the right side of the neck. Quote, findings not consistent with positional asphyxia, end quote. Anderson said Johnson appeared to be a victim of homicide and not an accidental death. Anderson's analysis of Johnson's organs were conducted using microscopic slides of tissue sample created during the state's autopsy. It goes on to note that, quote, after Kendrick Johnson's mother and father, Kenneth Johnson, did a second autopsy on him, they had found out that his death was not accidental, and he had died from blunt force trauma to the upper neck on the right, end quote. The family's third autopsy supported the results of the second, and that Johnson died of, quote, non-accidental, end quote, trauma to his body, Atlanta Black Star reported. Now more than ever, the Johnson family needs help in their ongoing fight for justice. Quote, please help us. We have all of the answers, but we demand justice, end quote, the petition states. And I'm going to link that petition in the description box. And I'm going to wrap this story up here. But I just wanted to do a refresher on this case so that we're all kind of have it fresh in our minds. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.